All right, so again, 11-8. Thank you guys for reminding me of recording. Those of you taking the math test, hopefully it was pretty painless. All right, so especially 3 and 4. If the polynomial has 4 or more terms, group your terms, factor out common factors from those groupings, and try to find a common binomial shared amongst the groups. As a final check, make sure there's no common factors bigger than 1. So if you've actually factored out the greatest common factor, step 4 is unnecessary, but sometimes we factored a common factor that could actually be larger to give us the greatest. So sometimes, like if it's an even number, we'll accidentally factor out too small of a value, and then we'll have to go back and actually factor out a bigger value. So we have this polynomial after we get past 3. So we have trinomials. But once we get past 3, we really just call it a polynomial for general many. So we have 3n cubed minus 12n plus 2n minus 8. So when you look at this initially, what kind of jumps out to you as should be our first step?
I see the greatest common factor being 4.
Ooh, careful. So you've got 3, 12, 2, and 8 as coefficients. So when I see 12, 2, and 8, I'm thinking, oh, 2. But the 3 goofs that up. When I see 3 and 12, I'm thinking, oh, 3. So since I'm kind of thinking of 2 different common factors, I could look at my 3n cubed and my 12n and say, well, those could have a common factor of 3. I could look at my 2n and my negative 8, and they could have a common factor of 2. So I can group them, break them apart, and look at this as 2 different polynomials. Well, not different, but 2 connected polynomials that I can work with separately. So I identify 3n cubed, 12n squared, and then 2n and negative 8. I'm separating them, I'm grouping them. You could use parentheses if you wanted. Then, when I really look at that, well, they both share the n, so I take the highest order of n that I can, which is n squared. So I pull out the 3n squared for my first values, and I pull out just the 2 for my next. So this is what you guys want to start writing down in your notes. I would almost up here rewrite this 3n squared and 12, or 3n cubed and 12n squared. I'd almost put that in parentheses and then do plus, and in parentheses do 2n minus 8. You don't have to, but it will help you see it, that we broke it up and made it 2 different groupings.
Wait a minute, but isn't that a minus?
Yeah, this one.
Where? Oh, yeah, sorry.
You messed me up, man.
Well, it shouldn't have messed you up. You caught it.
I caught myself and then I caught you.
12.
Shouldn't it be squared?
Gosh.
That's squared. Sorry.
Shouldn't it be n squared?
Yes, over here. No. Where?
Like,
N squared here? That one? Or what we're pulling in?
Oh, no.
So then, my 3 and my 12. Crap, now it's breaking apart.
It's a broken.
It is broken. 3n cubed. Okay. So then, the n minus 4 and the n minus 4 is my common binomial. So then, those common factors that I factored out, I will use those as a new binomial. So 3n squared and 2 both have to multiply by an n minus 4. So put those together, 3n squared, positive 2, in a binomial times that common binomial n minus 4. Because the 3n squared has to multiply by n minus 4, and so does the 2. I now just split them into 2 binomials that will work. Questions, comments, concerns?
Nope.
If we FOIL this, it would check out and it would work. So, try to got it. You want to break it up into groups that share common factors. Take out the greatest common factor possible. And if you've done it correctly, you should then get a shared binomial between both groups. For the record, Jacob, because I see you struggling to keep your hand up and hold your paper, I know that I can call on you. I'm pretty certain that at any given point I can call on you. So you don't always have to have your hand up.
That's reassuring.
What about me? Having a hand up is a sign of
I mean, I know that I can call on any of you guys. Some of you just like it more than others.
See, that's a
grand.
Yeah. He knows he shouldn't call on me unless I raise
Oh,
my
you're
hand.
circling. I was confused.
Now what's
Yeah, it was like
the
gerrymandering.
width?
So,
What?
I'm curious if there's another way there. Because you grouped 8t cubed and 20t, right? I mean, is that what you did?
Yeah.
So then,
I just saw it was like 7.
so that is here. Is that what that? Yeah. That one is this one, and then your 14 and your 3. Yeah. So your binomial, make sure that you group in parentheses. I'm curious if we can get to it in a different way, because I bet not everyone broke it up like we did. I'm gonna split the page because I'm pretty sure we got a couple solutions here. Not the right cards. Who are you guys? You're green. You're green.
Or green with like 2 white.
Jacob, how'd you break up this grouping?
When the
no,
sun
that
was here,
worked out
you almost
fine.
got called. Leon or Jacob almost got called every time. Every time.
Well, that's
Yeah.
because teachers like that like to call on kids with their hands up.
Well, even
No,
with
she
the
was
card.
doing
With the
cards.
card.
Really
Yeah, it was Jacob.
weird. All right, so
Jacob's
Leon.
card
I
got
was
big.
surprised.
how'd you break it up?
Okay, so like I did the 8t cube plus 14t squared. That's one.
That's one group. So 8t cubed plus 14t squared. That was one grouping plus
20t
now. Greg broke it up differently. Greg, how'd you break it up?
The 8t cubed
Yeah.
and the 20t.
And 20t. Now I'm just really curious to solve this and see if it works out the same way. 'Cause I think it should.
I can't give you the answer.
Well, I know, but we're gonna work it through. So then your other group had to be the 14t squared and the 35. So if we go back to Jacob's method, what's my common factor between 8t cubed and 14t squared? 2t squared, which then leaves me with 4t
plus 7
plus 7. And then my red, what's my common factor there?
plus
5, which leaves me 4t plus 7. So then I take my 2t squared and my 5 together in a binomial, and my shared 4t plus 7. Over here, Greg, what'd you use for your common factor for the first set? The 8t cubed and the 20t?
I used 4.
4, because it is the greatest common factor. 4t, though.
Yeah.
So then my 8t cubed divided by 4t becomes 2t squared.
Yeah.
Plus my 20t divided by 4t becomes that 5.
Wait, hold up.
I don't think so. Well, unless your work has a mistake and I just didn't catch it. 14t squared and 35 common factor would be 7. So then divide that, we would get 2t squared plus 5. We have that shared binomial again. So I'm going to take my coefficient values times that shared 2t squared plus 5. And notice we get the same thing. Whichever grouping you decide to do, you get the same thing if you do your workout correctly. Cool? Questions?
Yep.
Multiple correct ways to do these.
That's how your oak. That's Henry's.
So now we look, we've got 4, -8, 12, 24, all of which have Q's on them. You, what? Do you think you know the first thing we want to do? Why is your hand question?
No, I
Right.
said yes.
Oh, so what would you do first, Grant?
4Q with the 8Q with whatever cubes and squares they got there.
So what are you telling me to do? Do what with?
Yeah, put the 4Q with the 8Q. I don't know.
What do you mean put it with? Oh, you mean group them?
Yeah, don't you do that parenthesis thing?
Yeah. McKenna?
Factor out 4Q.
There's a common monomial through the whole thing. So you were right. We could group it,
Well, that's what I already
but we could more easily factor it, then group it. So if we factor out a 4Q from each of these,
already works.
gravity does still work. 4Q, then Q cubed minus 2Q squared plus 3Q minus 6.
6 gone.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Then we could group. But is that what we want to do? I mean, what's my next suggestion?
I like how.
Well,
You like grouping? Well, if you did it by grouping, that's fine, but see if you get the same answer that we do. Greg?
So, step 2 says the polynomial has 2 terms or 3 terms. Look for a difference of 2 squares.
So it's got 4 terms in it, though. My polynomial is now what's in my parentheses.
Okay, if a polynomial has 4 or more terms, group terms, and factor to find common binomials.
Sweet. So we got a group, right? Now I could group my q cubed and my 2q squared and have a higher order of q that I can factor out. Or I could group my 2q squared with my 6 and factor out a 2 that way. But since 3 and 6 have a common factor, I'm just going to group it in the order it is now. So 4q is going to drop down. It's a weird q. So I'm going to color code my grouping just so I don't have to write it again. What's my common factor between q cubed and negative 2 squared? Huh?
Q squared.
Just q squared, right? So q squared times q minus 2.
Did you say this was easier?
Well, that's relative. It makes the factoring of the groups smaller. It makes us work with less valued numbers. 3q and 6 really can only factor out the 3. So we again get q minus 2. So then if I reorder and group my binomials together, I will get q squared plus 3q minus 2.
Well, that's exactly what I got.
So at what point did you factor out that 4q then? Because if you started by grouping, you at some point would have seen that that 4q needs to be pulled out. Or did that happen? Is that in the, are these values larger? Is one of your binomials larger by 4q?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mine says 4 cubed to
So then you could factor out the 4q at the end. So either you factor out at the beginning or you factor.
factored it out, but then I just put it back in.
Oh, don't put it back in. Leave it factored out. Yeah. Does this make sense? Does anyone have questions? I mean, you don't have to necessarily solve it exactly the same, but as long as you get to the same answer. Try the got it.
Thanks.
That's not how you. This is not a game called Got It, where you just hit the buzzer.
I like games where you just hit the buzzer and win.
What? It's fun when you actually have to answer questions like Jeopardy. At the beginning of the year, that was Wednesday. It was.
Make your work have smaller values if you factor it out first.
But that way can focus.
Why? What's my common factor here? 3h, right? So then why? How'd you group it?
I used 2h cubed and 4h and 3h squared and 6.
Yeah, it'll let us group a little nicer if I do my 2h cubed with my 4h and my 3h squared with my 6. So my yellow terms, what was my common factor between 2h cubed and 4h? 2h times, now this just becomes h squared plus 2. That was my yellow. So then my green, what's my common factor with the green values? Just 3. And that becomes h squared plus 2. So then I just reorder, grouping my values in front of the shared binomial together in a binomial. 3h quantity, 2h plus 3, quantity h squared plus 2. Questions? This making sense? Just a different way to look at these. Jacob's ladder.
Whoa, Jacob? Let's go.
So, if you've never seen it, the toy shown is, at least I grew up knowing it, called a Jacob's ladder.
Yeah.
Really cool mathematically. It took me a while to figure out really how it worked, and then the magic was like gone. Cause you're like, oh my gosh, it like drops down. Has anyone does anyone not know what this is? You've never seen one.
I know, those are so fun.
I didn't know that.
You don't know what it is, Wyatt?
Wow. You're not that old. Workout.
Oh, that thing is so fun. My cousin has one of those. I just mess with that.
It's really fun. Does it just fold open?
Yes, but it's like
Wow.
so that you end up with the 3 little ends on the top. To hold the Jacob's ladder, you put your fingers in your palm and just rock like a seesaw, or just the same as the machines are doing.
But it's really just because the ribbons. So they're pretty.
If you're left-handed, you can also use your left hand, picking
oh come on, Mr. Hudson.
it up, 3 little ends facing your palm.
See it?
2-year-olds can do this trick.
But nothing's actually moving. It's just switching. They're all rotating 180 degrees.
Tricks that you can do?
That's what happened.
Research it more later if you want. I want to get through the lesson so we can get through it for you guys.
In this
So
problem,
that's
you
the
will
toy.
find the dimensions of a rectangular prism.
So now that's the
The toy shown below is made of several bars that can fold together to form a rectangular prism or unfold to form a ladder.
So when we
What
factor
expressions
this
can
out,
represent the
we find out what
dimensions
is
of the
length
toy when it is
with
folded up?
the height.
Use
So
factoring.
6x cubed, 9x squared, 15x. We have 3 terms. First step, I have 3 terms. I can find a common factor. 6, 19. Sorry, I think I said 9 and 15. Do we have any common factors between 6, 19, and 15? Robert? X. So if I factor out an x, one of my lengths will be x. Then I only have 6x squared, 19x, and 15 as a constant.
Step 2. To factor
So
the
we factor out the x, and we now get here. Then when I look at splitting them up, so again, we have 3 terms. We're looking, do we have a perfect trinomial? Do we have a difference of squares? Do we have any of those special relationships happening? So again, to think of AC. Well, AC is 90 because it's 6 times 15. 90. And we want them to add up to 19. Things that multiply to 90 and add to 19. Wyatt? 9 and 10. So we use 9 and 10. Now we rewrite all this. Now notice, once I split... Hey guys, I really don't want to talk over you. I'm still kind of not feeling 100%. Okay. So my highlighter apparently doesn't want to work. Once I split these, I've got 4 terms, and then I can group. So the point of doing the split, of taking 19x and rewriting it as 9x plus 10x, is so that I can then group 6x squared and 9x and 10x and 15. So then I can get the common binomial of 2x plus 3 for both of them, and then take the 3x and the 5 from out front and make them their own binomial. So that's how we could get the length, the width, and the height. Questions? We good? All right, try the got it. My smart board's being a pain.
Wait, 2x times 5x plus 2 times 5. I just ordered it. I got you.
In this of this toy are x, 3 times x plus 5, and 2 times x plus 3.
Might be easier to see now.
Okay, I know what to do here. That game looks like Hannah Montana.
No, I wasn't going to.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah, I'm feeling in the holiday spirit. Do odds or evens. Really, this homework's not that bad. It's not that long, but whatever.
Bro, it's more than 5 questions.
Oh yeah, anything that takes more than 2 minutes is just too long. So, real quick, got it together. Then I'll let you go, and then we'll do Mind Trap. What did we do first here, Kale?
You factor out an x.
Factor out an x. Then, Robert.
Actually, you could do 2x.
Ah, you could factor out 2x. So 30 x squared plus 17x plus 2. Then what'd you break up your 17 to be, Leah? Multiply to get 60, add to get 17. Did you break your 17, or did you make it that far?
I made an error.
You made an error? Sasha, what about you? Did you break your 17?
Call a friend.
Greg, you're
Call
next.
Wyatt.
12 and 5.
12 and 5. So I rewrite this. 30x squared plus 12x plus 5x. Actually, I'm going to write that the other way. Plus 5x plus 12x plus 2. Because I would rather group my 30 and my 5 and my 12 and my 2. This 2x still needs to be up front. So I carry it down again. My 30 and my 5 both share 5x. So this becomes 6x plus 1. Plus my 12x and my 2 both share 2. And this becomes 6x plus 1. So we should, in the end, I'm just going to write it up here, 2x times 5x plus 2 and 6x plus 1. Questions, comments, or concerns? All right, you guys can work on your homework. Once I get this figured out, we will mind trap a little bit.
Who will?
Yeah.
I don't even know how to play it.
It's just a riddle game.
Oh,
You can ask yes or no questions.
Oh.
And